So 2016 is really when my personal journey started, where I got really involved and was seeking to serve the public, either in public service in a variety of ways, including running for elected office. And I got involved not necessarily for the reasons that you might expect, but in 2016, my eldest turned 18, became an adult. And, they had done everything that we expected, that anybody would expect out of our children, to go through school and work hard and get good grades and do all the things. And they'd even gotten a scholarship to a college, but they didn't really want to go to college. They wanted to just get out, get a good job, get an apartment, and start providing for themselves as an independent person. And really, that's what I had done when I was 18. And we quickly realized that the opportunities that I had when I was 18 didn't exactly exist anymore for them as an adult when they turned 18. And that realization hit me like a gut punch. Now, when I was 18, I could reasonably expect to get a job, a full-time job. And it wasn't a high-paying job, but it paid enough so that I could afford an apartment. It paid enough so that I could afford transportation and groceries and clothing and utilities. Not necessarily healthcare, because that's always been an issue. And hopefully we can take care of that issue as we move into the future. I even had some money that I could set aside for some entertainment and to enjoy my life. But my eldest, and they tried really hard. They might be able to find an entry-level job. It would probably be a part-time job to start with, or if they found a full-time job, great, but it paid minimum wage, and minimum wage wasn't even $15 an hour at that point. But where I was able to afford an apartment, they could not afford the rent. The rent was too damn high. Even if they had a roommate, the rent was too damn high. The cost of utilities, the cost of groceries, the cost of everything, though, that job couldn't pay for it. And that's a systemic issue. They weren't looking for an extravagant lifestyle. They weren't looking for a high-end lifestyle. They were looking for a basic lifestyle. And that opportunity no longer existed. So what that realization hit me was that we had done something wrong. We had failed the next generation. Because honestly, if we had done everything right, the next generation not only would have at least the same opportunities that we had, they would have more opportunity. And we'd seem to have gone backwards. If they haven't even got the same opportunities that the current generation has, then we've gone backwards. And that thought kept going through my head, and the thought that, had to fix it, because, when you identify a problem and you don't see anybody else fixing it, then you know that it falls upon you to fix that problem. And, that became the overwhelming thought in my head, that, I wanted my children to be able to live a successful life, the life that they chose to do. And then, as that thought got developed in my head, it started going more, because I don't want them to live my life. I want them to live their lives. I want them, every child becomes their own person, and whoever that person is, they should be expected to be able to live the life that they choose as themselves, as the person that they've become. And, they should have the ability to live prosperously. They shouldn't have to fear for whether they can afford food or clothing or shelter or any of those basic needs. And if they had, worked hard, really hard, they could expect to get more. And yet that no longer seems to be the case for a great many people. I know that there are some that can afford more, but for a lot of people in our society, honestly, no matter how hard they work, they're not able to make the rent or the utilities or sometimes even groceries. And that thought goes through my head, and I wanted to fix it. I wanted to help fix it at least. And that goal became apparent to me, that we should have a society in which everyone can successfully live the life that they choose to live as their genuine selves, with dignity, with prosperity, with security, and justice. And that's the first goal. That's what got me into this. That's what drives me on. And this is, the situation hasn't changed. It's been since 2016. It's 2025 right now. It's almost 10 years. And the situation hasn't changed. In fact, it's probably gotten worse. And it's because we don't have people representing in all areas. We have some people who are doing some really very good work in order to change the systems in our society so that the supports are there, so that people are empowered to live that successful life that they want. But the people representing our area, and I live in the rural Finger Lakes. I live in Wayne County. I live in a very rural area, and we are constantly being represented by people who don't apparently share that goal, who don't have that value that the next generation should be able to have a more successful life. And of course, if the next generation is going to have a more successful life, then the current generation has to be able to have a successful life as well, right? It becomes one of those things that it's all encompassing. Literally, what I'm working for is for everyone to have a better life. And I think that there's ways we can do it. And I'm not talking about simply giving it to somebody, but everybody should be empowered to successfully live their lives. And we do that by making sure that the supports are in place. And those supports are making sure we've got, the infrastructure and utilities that support life, that they're affordable, that the basic needs are taken care of, food, clothing, housing, healthcare. Those all need to be taken care of so that people can successfully live their lives and have some security, have some certainty as they move forward with their lives, right? And one of the things that we can provide is education at all levels to make sure that people, that you have the abilities, that you are empowered to successfully live your life. That's what started all this. This is what motivates me. This is the thing that keeps me going. Until that time has occurred, I don't think I can stop. And I want to serve the public in this way. And there's a lot more that goes into it as I run for New York State Senate in the next year. And I'll share the other reasons as we go on, but I wanted to share that primal, that first motivation, that's what got me going and keeps me going. And in addition to a number of other things, but really that's why I'm running for New York State Senate. That's why I'm trying to serve the public